Good day, everyone, and welcome to our two-day program, PMP for Operation Excellence. This is the second episode. In today, we're going to dive deep into second episode, the principles of professional project management, and, most importantly, how to apply them directly to the excellent work you do here in the maintenance department. Let's get started. Here's recap our roadmap for the next 2 days. Day 1 is all about building a strong foundation. We'll start with the why, understanding the strategic importance of project management, and move into the critical first steps of defining and planning a project. Day 2 will be focused on the how. We'll cover execution, tracking, and introduce some modern tools like Kanban. We'll close with a hands-on simulation and discuss how to effectively implement these skills back in your roles. Once you have your WBS, planning the budget becomes much more systematic. For each work package at the bottom of your WBS, you identify the resources needed: people, equipment, materials. Then you estimate the cost for each. Finally, and this is critical, you add a contingency reserve. No project goes exactly as planned, and a contingency budget is your buffer for dealing with the unexpected risks you've identified. A common problem is having more work than resources. We have 2 main techniques to deal with this. If your deadline is flexible, you can use resource leveling, where you delay tasks to fit the availability of your key people or equipment. This often pushes out the end date, but if your deadline is fixed, you use resource smoothing. Here you can only move tasks around within their existing float or slack time, which we'll discuss next. This optimizes resource use without changing the final deadline.
Now let's talk about scheduling. 2 classic tools are the Gantt chart and the PERT chart. The Gantt chart is a bar chart that everyone is familiar with. It's fantastic for showing the project timeline and communicating progress. The PERT chart is a network diagram that looks more like a flowchart. Its main strength is showing the dependencies between tasks and helping us find the, quote, critical path, which is what we'll look at now. The critical path is the single most important concept in project scheduling. It is the longest chain of dependent tasks in your project. The length of this path determines the absolute minimum time your project will take. Any task on this path is, quote, critical, because if it's delayed by even 1 day, the entire project will be delayed by 1 day. These tasks have zero flexibility, or what we call float. So how do we find this critical path? We use a technique called the forward and backward pass. First, we go forward through our network diagram to calculate the earliest possible start and finish date for each task. Then, we work backward from the project end date to find the latest each task can start and finish without delaying the project. The difference between the latest and earliest start times is the float. Any task with zero float is on the critical path. We'll do a hands-on exercise to make this clear. Time for our next workshop. This is a practical exercise to make the critical path method tangible. I'm handing out a simple project network diagram. Your job is to perform the forward and backward pass calculations to find the float for each task and identify the critical path. Don't worry, we'll walk through the first couple of steps together. Now I want to shift gears and introduce a tool from the world of agile and lean manufacturing that is incredibly useful for any team: Kanban. Originating from Toyota, Kanban is a visual system for managing workflow. It's not a rigid methodology that replaces everything you do. Instead, it's a flexible framework you can apply on top of your current processes to improve flow and efficiency. Kanban is built on a few simple but powerful principles. First, you visualize your work on a board. Second, and this is the key, you limit your work in progress, or WIP. This forces the team to finish tasks before starting new ones. The goal is to manage the flow of work, not the people. By doing this, bottlenecks become immediately obvious, and the team can work together to continuously improve the process. This is what a simple Kanban board looks like. You have columns representing the stages of your work. At its simplest: to do, in progress, and done. Each task is a card that moves across the board. Notice the, quote, the WIP limit on the in progress column. This means the team can only work on 2 tasks at a time. This is incredibly useful for managing daily work orders, tracking improvement projects, or even visualizing the workflow for a small overhaul. Let's try this out. We're going to simulate managing incoming maintenance requests using a Kanban board. I'll be giving your team new request cards periodically. Your job is to move them across the board, but you must respect the WIP limit of 2 items in the in progress column. The goal of this exercise is for you to feel what happens when a bottleneck occurs and how WIP limits force you to focus on finishing work.
Now we enter the phases where the project is actively underway. The team is in the execution phase, doing the work we planned. At the same time, the project manager is in the monitoring and control phase. Your job is to constantly compare your actual progress to the plan, identify any deviations, and take corrective action to get back on track. To track our performance, we use variance analysis. We're constantly asking, where did we plan to be, and where are we actually? A powerful technique for this is earned value management, or EVM. It gives us two key metrics: cost variance, which tells us if we're over or under budget for the work we've done, and schedule variance, which tells us if we're ahead of or behind schedule. A negative variance is an early warning sign that we need to take action. While time and cost are critical, modern project management looks at a broader set of key performance indicators, or KPIs. The Cost and Schedule Performance Indexes, CPI and SPI, tell us about our efficiency. Tracking missed milestones gives us a high-level view of schedule health. And critically, we also need to track things like stakeholder satisfaction and resource utilization. A project can be on time and on budget, but if our stakeholders are unhappy or our team is burnt out, it's not a true success. Change is inevitable on any project. The goal isn't to prevent change, but to control it. An uncontrolled change is called scope creep, and it's a primary reason projects fail. A professional project manager uses a formal change control process. A change is requested, you analyze its full impact on the triple constraint, it gets formally approved or rejected, and only then is it implemented. This process protects the project from chaos. Great project managers are proactive, not reactive. Risk management is the process of thinking about what could go wrong before it does. We identify potential risks, analyze their probability and impact, and plan a response in advance. This allows us to control uncertainty instead of being controlled by it. We'll do a risk brainstorming exercise as part of our final simulation. We've reached the final phase, project closure. This is the most frequently skipped phase in project management, but it's one of the most important for the long-term health of the organization. Closing isn't just about finishing the last task. It's a formal process to ensure the project is truly complete and its value is successfully handed over. A professional closure involves a checklist of activities. You need to get formal sign-off, hand over the deliverable to the team that will support it, close out all contracts, release your team members, and archive your documents. But the most critical step is capturing lessons learned. This is how the organization gets smarter. By documenting what worked and what didn't, we ensure that we don't pay for the same mistakes on the next project.
Everything we've discussed is made easier with modern software. There are many great tools available. OpenProject is a powerful, open-source option for managing complex projects with Gantt charts and budgets. Freecamp is very scalable, with a great free version. Asana is excellent for team collaboration and workflow automation. And for a simple, visual Kanban board, Trello is a fantastic place to start. Looking ahead, artificial intelligence is set to become a powerful tool for project managers. I can automate many of the routine tasks like reporting and reminders. More excitingly, it can analyze data from past projects to predict future risks and help us optimize our resource plans. The goal of AI is not to replace the project manager, but to act as a powerful assistant, freeing you up to focus on the strategic and leadership aspects of your role. Now for our final capstone simulation. This is where we put everything together. Your group is now the project team for an urgent equipment upgrade. You have 45 minutes to produce 3 key documents: a visual project charter, a high-level WBS, and your top 3 risks. At the end, each team will briefly present their plan as if they were seeking approval from management. This will test your ability to apply the core concepts we've learned in a condensed time frame. This training is just the beginning. The real value comes when you apply these skills. So what are the next steps? First, start small. Don't try to implement everything at once. Maybe start by using a Kanban board for your daily tasks. For your very next project, create a simple one-page charter. I also highly recommend you form a small group to meet informally once a month to share what you're learning. Finally, remember that you have the training materials to refer back to, and that management support is key to making this new competency a part of the culture.
That brings us to the end of our program. We've covered a lot of ground, from the strategic foundations of project management to the practical tools you can use every day. I hope you found it valuable. I'd like to open the floor now for any final questions you may have. Thank you all for your engagement and hard work over these 2 days. It was a pleasure working with you.